Hi everybody, it's Nina, Beachfront Bargains. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am a reseller on Poshmark and eBay. Recently added Amazon FBA to that as well. Today I'm going to be going over the dreaded Poshmark case, what a case is, the different types of cases, how to handle them, and how they are handled by Poshmark as well. So if you don't know what a Poshmark case is, good. That means you've probably never had one opened against you. What a Poshmark case is when a buyer opens a claim about the item for a wide variety of reasons, just any kind of claim that they don't want the item, then they want their money back, or they got the wrong item. There's a wide variety of reasons, and I'll go into some different ones. So I've been reselling on Poshmark for about 2 years, and I think I've had just about every case, a lot of different cases happen as a buyer and as a seller. So I'm going to go through the different cases and what exactly happens when they occur. Okay, so first off, a little bit of basics on a Poshmark case. When they are opened, how it works is the buyer opens them and then it's open with Poshmark support. The only way to contact Poshmark support is either through the app, through the case, or via email. There's no phone number, so it can take a little bit to get a response. I don't think I've ever had one take more than 48 hours, but the problem is it can take 24 to 48 hours between each response. So if you're saying something, then they say something, then the buyer says something, it can be a very lengthy process. And another thing to note about Poshmark cases, and they recently changed this, is anything the buyer says you can see and Poshmark support can see, and anything you can see or you say, the buyer can see it. So if you're leaving any comments, just know that the buyer is going to see those comments as well. So keep that in mind when you're commenting on cases, to keep it professional and be kind, even if the buyer is wrong, because they can see that. Okay, so the first case, and I think this is probably the most common case, I think a lot of us are guilty of this, is sending an item on accident, of course, that is damaged or stained or just has some kind of issue that you were unaware of when you sent it. This has happened to me a couple times. So I've sent an item with like a small hole. I've sent an item with a stain, and it was totally accidental. Now that I have my ring light, which I'm pointing at because I'm filming with it, but I have my ring light, I look at the items very carefully before I package them, just to make sure that there's no stains, and I can see them very well in the ring light. But so what happens if you send an item that is damaged, stained, any type of issue like that, the buyer will win the case. What I do is I automatically just say, yep, you're right, I see the stain, because the buyer will provide photos, or I see the hole, and I say, you're right, I'm so sorry about that. And then usually when, if you admit fault, Poshmark will prove it much faster. And then the buyer gets a refund and the item will be sent back to you as well. And then I just donate the item. It's really no loss in your part in that regards. I'm sure if you do this often enough, Poshmark is going to take a fee from you, or your account will get in trouble. But I've done it maybe 2 or 3 times, and I never had any issues with Poshmark because of it. I felt bad and I felt terrible for the buyer, and I apologized, but there was no punishment that occurred or anything. So it's okay if you make a mistake. Just note that. The next one, which I don't think is as common, but it does happen, and it has happened to me. And this can go a couple of ways. So it's the buyer claiming that the item is damaged or that something's wrong with the item. The second item I ever sold on Poshmark actually had a case opened against it, which I lost. The buyer claimed that there were rips in the item, and they sent photos, and there were rips in the item, but there weren't rips when I sent it. And I know that because this was a pair of leggings, Gymshark leggings, that were mine, and I wore them. So I would be aware of any rips or tears. I think what happened is when they tried them on, they accidentally ripped it. But I lost the case and the item was returned to me with damage. So in that case, there's nothing you can really do. Now I don't think that would happen to me because my photos are really good. My photos before was just like a bunch of stock photos and like the item like laying on my bed, and it was like dark. You couldn't see it. So I deserved to lose that case. I wasn't wrong, but I didn't have the photos to back it up. So if this does happen to you, you could provide the photos of the item, the original item. There was no holes. This is not my damage, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't know which way Poshmark tends to go on this. But if you have solid proof that you sent that item without any damage, you should be good. But if you're not, just eat the cost and move on. There's really nothing you can do about it. Like in this case, I just said, well, that sucks, but I can't do anything about it. So I took the item back and I took the loss. That's just kind of part of business here. There's going to be a very, 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 very small percentage of people that are a little sketchy and they're going to do things like that. But most buyers are great. So this doesn't happen too often, but if it does, just use your photos to back your evidence up and try your best. Okay, the next one is also one that has happened to me is the item doesn't fit the buyer and they want to return it or they don't like it. I had someone's, I don't remember what they said. They just said the item was tighter than they thought, or I don't know, but they lost the case. Poshmark does not allow returns for fit. So if the item doesn't fit, that's the buyer's problem. They can resell it on Poshmark and get their money back, but you cannot return an item for a fit, and you can't return an item because you don't like it. So if any of those cases are ever open against you, don't stress about them. Poshmark will always decide in your favor since it's in their policy. So don't worry if that does happen, and it does happen. I've had a couple of those, and I've always won them. So, okay. Okay, the next ones are every reseller's nightmare. And I've done this. So guilty as charged here is sending the wrong item. So there's a couple of things you could do. You could just blatantly send the wrong item to the buyer. So, you have 2 striped sweaters that look the same and you grab that one instead of this one. I used to have issues with this, but now I have everything with an inventory number, so it's less likely to happen, but it still did happen, and I'll tell you in a second what I did. But if you send the wrong item, the first thing you can try to do is intercept it before it gets there. So see if you can intercept the shipping if you realize that. But if you don't realize and they open a case, that's okay. Poshmark will get it returned back to you and you can ship them the right item, or they can just ship it back to you and you don't have to send the right item as well. It depends on the buyer and what the buyer is willing to do and what they want to do. Most buyers are very, very understanding. They're like, oh yeah, I get it. It happens, and they'll ship it back to you and then you can send them the correct item. But if the buyer is upset, then you'll just get it back and Poshmark will pay the shipping. Now this is something I had to caveat with. Poshmark's going to pay the shipping the first time you do this, but not the second time you do this. So don't do it again is basically what they're saying. But I think it's a terrifying mistake to make as a reseller. It's really embarrassing. So once you do it, you won't do it again anyways. So along with that, this is literally every reseller's worst nightmare to do this, and I did it once, is swapping items. So you're shipping, you have a bunch of stuff to ship, and you send John Susie's pants, and you send Susie John's pants. I swapped a pair of bright red women's skinny jeans with these bootcut men's jeans. So this guy got these bright red women's skinny jeans. I didn't realize that I had done it, and I got a case opened by one of the buyers saying, hey, I don't think I got the right item. And I sent a picture and I was like, oh no. So what happened is both the buyers opened a case. I admitted to Poshmark support right away. You're right. I sent the wrong things. Please, can we fix this as soon as possible? I'm so sorry. And what Poshmark did on this one is actually really interesting. Instead of shipping them back to me, which what I thought was going to happen, is they gave a shipping label to each buyer so they could send it to each other rather than sending it back to me. So that was a really cool way to fix it. And again, it was free to me, but I got a nasty gram email that said, hey, we're going to fix it this time, but next time shipping's on you. So the first time you do it, they will pay. They'll take care of the shipping. You don't have to pay the $6.49 to swap it between the buyers. The buyers don't pay anything, no issues. But Poshmark sends you an email that says, hey, if you do this again, you're going to have to pay $6.49 for each shipping label. So you have to pay it twice to ship it to each other. So once it's shipped to each person, then they can accept the order and it's no problem. It's a pain for the buyer, but I mean, if this happens, just apologize, say you're sorry. And the buyers tend to be pretty understanding. But again, that's every reseller's nightmare. I pack my orders one by one. I'm on probation. My husband won't let me pack more than one at a time now because we screwed it up. We have to do it one by one until we really trust ourselves to have a expedited shipping process and that we feel like we won't swap orders. So, okay. And then the last one, I've actually experienced this as a buyer rather than a seller, is when you sell a bundle. So Poshmark does not allow for you to return one item. So you sell 5 things to a person and something's wrong with one of them. It's your fault, right? Something's wrong. There's a stain on one of the items. They can't return just that one item because of how it makes sense because of how the pricing works on the bundle. There's an overall price for the bundle. So how would you refund that? Would you just divide by the number of items? That's not necessarily fair because you could have one item in there that was worth a lot more. So the policy is that if you don't want one item in the bundle, there's something wrong with one item in the bundle, the whole bundle has to go back. So this can be rough as a this can be rough as a seller because bundle sales are, of course, the best. That's where you get a lot more money than just selling one item. Now Poshmark has a really cool way of handling this. So this happened to me as a buyer, and what they did is, and they gave me options, which is also cool as a buyer to have options. Is they said you can either take, I think it was like, this is a pretty big bundle, and it was like 2 stained items. You can either take a $15 Posh credit or return the whole bundle. And they just said, let us know what you want to do. Since I was a buyer, I'm not sure if that Posh credit was taken from the seller or if it was just Poshmark granting that Posh credit. Again, I would assume it's something where it's like one time they'll do it for you, and the next time it's like, no, they're not going to help you out. So I took the Posh credit and kept the bundle. And kept the stained items anyways. So it was something I could wash out. I don't know if I would accept that if it was like damaged items or anything, like not usable, but since it was just stained, I kept it. So there is hope with bundles. They will help you out a little bit, especially the first, maybe the second time as well, the option for the Posh credit instead of returning the whole bundle. But if the buyer did not accept that, like if, in that case, if I said, no, I don't want it, I would have had to take the whole bundle and send everything back to the buyer, and they would have had to refund me the whole bundle. So just keep that in mind with bundles, to be extra careful with your bundle items because the return policy with cases, if there is an issue, is a little more difficult on bundles. So I think, let me see, that is all of the different cases I had to go through. If there's any other ones, feel free to let me know. But overall, I would say with cases, just it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Everyone makes mistakes, and Poshmark knows that. And Poshmark is very lenient on sellers, and out of all the platforms I sell on, I think Poshmark has their sellers' backs a lot, and they also take care of their buyers. So it seems like it's a win-win. I've never really had an unpleasant experience. I had one case where it was not the greatest, and they were trying to return it for fit, but most of the times the buyers are super understanding, and if you're just apologetic, it'll work out in your favor, and Poshmark will take care of it. So don't stress about cases. It's not the end of the world. That happens to everyone. So, all right. So that's it. If you have any other cases or any questions or comments or any weird, funny cases that have happened to you, feel free to leave them below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching.